This story is based on alleged accounts without concrete evidence and may be viewed as science fiction. It is presented for entertainment and discussion purposes only, and we do not endorse or support any claims made. Viewers should conduct their own research and form their own opinions. In previous episode, we touched upon the fact that the production of element 115 is still a distant goal for humans. Let us continue with the story. In 1989, Lazar mentioned in the program that the flying saucer used kilogram-level stable element 115, and he predicted that we were still far from synthesizing element 115 in the laboratory. Unexpectedly, in 2003, a nuclear laboratory in Russia used calcium ions to collide with hydrogen atoms and synthesized 4 atoms of element 115, with a decay period of only 100 milliseconds. Finally, the International Atomic Energy Agency named element 115 Moscovium, with Moscow as the first part of the name in English. If element 115 can really be used as the core material for spacetime distortion, then we can currently synthesize atomic-level element 115. But compared to the hundreds of kilograms of element 115 used by extraterrestrial beings, our technology gap is evident. It is now certain that Bob Lazar lied about his education and work experience, but his disclosures were not entirely fabricated. Based on his descriptions of certain things, such as Janet Airlines, the mysterious bus, and EG&G, which have been confirmed, it is clear that he could not have been a complete outsider. So, if Lazar was not the so-called top physicist, how did he get to work at Area 51? Firstly, although he attended community college, he studied electronic engineering, which is a physics-related field. He had some physics knowledge, although not at the level of a physicist, but certainly stronger than an average person, and could be considered a physics professional. Regarding Lazar's claim of working at Los Alamos National Laboratory, although the laboratory denied it, his name was found in the phone book of the laboratory, listed as an employee of a company called Kirk Mayer, a leading global supplier of first-class generators in the field of electrochemical solutions. So it can be inferred that at the time, Lazar entered Los Alamos National Laboratory in some capacity. He did indeed have the fortunate opportunity to enter the laboratory. But he did not work on core research and development. He may have only been employed as an outsourced worker in the field of electronics technology. So even though Lazar had a background in Los Alamos National Laboratory outsourcing, how did he end up working at a top-secret facility like Area 51? When Lazar was young, he assembled a rocket car that could reach speeds of up to 320 miles per hour, which was reported in the local newspaper. For a young person, this was a very cool achievement, and he was also very intelligent. Although he had an ordinary education, Lazar had been waiting for an opportunity. As expected, on the day that his rocket car news was published, he found out that the father of the helium bomb and top physicist in the United States, Edward Teller, was giving a talk in the area. One day, he found Teller's phone number based on the information in the newspaper, and called him directly, telling him that he was the young man featured in the newspaper that day and an outsourced employee of the laboratory, and he wanted a better opportunity. Most people would think that this was impossible. But in a country like the United States, such opportunities do exist. When Jobs was in his teens, he called the CEO of the famous game company Atari and secured a job opportunity. It was after this experience that Jobs founded Apple. After Lazar offered his services, Teller happened to see the newspaper and made a phone call. Teller then recommended him to EG&G. Of course, Teller must have reviewed his resume and would not have introduced him to core research and development work. But the job was certainly better than his outsourced work at the time. With the help of the laboratory's outsourcing manager and Teller's recommendation, Lazar was able to pass EG&G's screening process and obtain a job at Area 51. The base, as seen on maps, had a large number of facilities in addition to the core research and development institutions, all of which were necessary for the base's operation. The U.S. Department of Energy, Air Force, and Navy all placed some of their secret test flight projects here, so these facilities required a large number of outsourced personnel, including electricians, security personnel, chefs, construction workers, and even janitors. The suppliers of these personnel were numerous contractors of the U.S. Department of Defense. And EG&G was the labor company responsible for Area 51. As an outsourced worker, if you are a curious person, you can also find out many secrets of Area 51. These employees do not live in Area 51 for long periods of time, unlike regular employees. They depart on Janet Airlines every morning and return to Las Vegas before sunset. Each of them also had to sign a non-disclosure agreement and not reveal details about their work at Area 51. In a 2000 interview with Edward Taylor, a reporter asked him if he knew Bob Lazar, and Taylor's response at the time was, "I will sit silently."
And if I ask you on camera if you know Bob Lazar, can you just say no?
I will sit silently.
He did know Lazar, and he played a key role in helping Lazar obtain a job at Area 51. But Lazar's revelations also had some impact on Taylor's reputation, so he didn't want to talk about it much. So Lazar did indeed work at Area 51, but what he did there is not known for certain. This is why he gave himself the label of having graduated from a top university and having a glamorous work history when he made his disclosures, to make them more believable. Just because he lied about these things doesn't mean his disclosures were completely false. Someone who has never worked at Area 51 would find it difficult to fabricate such detailed stories, and many parts of his disclosures have been confirmed. In conclusion, we have two possible inferences about Lazar. The first is that he was an outsourced employee of a research and development institution at Area 51. But this institution had nothing to do with UFO research. Instead, it was a plasma technology used by the U.S. to interfere with enemy missiles and radar, using high-energy ion beams fired into the air to create a plasma ball. This creates a heat source on enemy radar, misleading enemy attacks. This plasma ball emits a strong light at night, appearing as a spherical glowing object from a distance. The basis for this technology is a patent released in 2020, which states that the U.S. developed this plasma ball at Area 51 in the 1970s, and the patent issuer was the U.S. Navy. This also explains why Lazar said he received his salary from the U.S. Navy. At the time, Lazar was a young man and was prone to bragging when he was with friends. In order to distinguish himself, he told his friends that he was involved in reverse engineering flying saucers at Area 51. Of course, his friends didn't believe him, so he said, "If you don't believe me, I'll take you to see it." This led to the events on Wednesday, when from a distance, these plasma balls looked exactly like UFOs, and his friends naturally believed him. After being discovered by security, Lazar and others were brought in for questioning. By comparing the testimony of the three men, the military found that Lazar did not disclose the development of plasma technology, but instead used UFOs to cover up the truth. So, EG&G simply fired him and did not sue him. Later on, everyone said that someone wanted to assassinate him because the bubble had been burst, and he was exposed as a liar. On the one hand, it is possible that Lazar wanted to gain more attention by revealing his story. Over 30 years have passed, and Lazar can only continue to stick to his story. On the other hand, as an outsourced employee of Area 51, Lazar may have actually worked at the S4 base as he claimed, but he may have only been doing outsourced work. Driven by his curiosity, he learned from other motivated individuals that the facility was conducting reverse engineering on UFOs, which explains why he was not allowed to participate in the UFO test flight on Wednesday, as reported in the news. This also suggests that he was not involved in the core work. So which of these two possibilities do you believe in more? Especially with Lazar's release of the footage of the UFO light spot he allegedly captured at S4. Do you think it was a plasma experiment or a real UFO? It all depends on your judgment. Regardless of how much truth there is in his experiences, Lazar has become a legendary figure in the UFO field. As for the truth, only he knows it. However, everything cannot be denied. There cannot be only one type of life in the universe. And the key question is whether other forms of life and civilization have discovered or come to Earth. But I still believe that extraterrestrial life has already come to Earth. I also believe that part of Lazar's disclosures are credible and true. Like the phrase that has become a kind of belief, "I want to believe." When we firmly believe that UFOs have crashed on Earth and that extraterrestrial beings exist, all the troubles in life seem insignificant.